Back with another episode of Council Bluffs today. Hi, I'm Todd Studer. So we are coming up on one of my favorite times of the year here in Council Bluffs. I say it every year. I know I do, but I also mean it every time. It is Celebrate CB Week, and it's right around the corner. This year, it's something extra special going on at the same time because Railroad Days is going to be running right alongside it. And the theme this year is CB on Track, which when you think about it, it's just about as perfect of a theme as you could come up with for this city. Now, we're going to get into the why in that in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk to you about what Celebrate CB actually is, because I think there are people who have lived here their whole lives and maybe don't even know the full story behind it. There are people who are newer to the area. Maybe they have heard about it, but don't really know what to expect. So let's walk through it together, because the history of Celebrate CB is actually pretty fascinating. So let's celebrate CB the way it exists today, going back over 50 years. And it didn't start as this big citywide event. It actually started in the schools. I think that's kind of cool, honestly. It started as a school pride thing, from what I understand, at places like TJ and AL high schools, just a way for the kids to get fired up about their school, their community. And somewhere around 1971, that energy kind of spilled out between the school walls and became a citywide thing. And they called it Pride Week back then. And then in 1979, they added the parade. Now, that is when it became the most what people think of when they think of Celebrate CB, because the parade, that's the thing. That's the moment when the whole city just comes out and lines up and down the streets and, celebrates being here, being from here, being part of this place. Here's the part of the story that I just love, and I think a lot of people don't know this. Back in the early days of Pride Week, they started bringing in celebrity grand marshals. You remember that? And the way it started is it's one of those only in Council Bluffs kind of stories. A bunch of school kids wrote a letter to Mr. T. You remember Mr. T, the gold chains, I pity the fool, the A-team, the whole thing? Yeah, they asked him to come to their parade. He said yes, and he did it for free. Now, the organizer at the time, a guy named Dick Miller, went out to Epley Airfield to pick him up, and he's standing there looking for this guy covered in gold chains and jewelry, and he completely missed him because Mr. T walked off the plane in a hoodie trying to blend in. Dick's standing there thinking, where is this guy? And he's already there. I love that story. Now, just one visit kind of kicked off the whole era where they'd bring a celebrity to town every year. Jay Leno came, Johnny Cash came, also Tom Osborne, Tommy Frazier. Good morning. Start with peace of mind. My Nurse Healthcare provides professional in-home support where it matters most, helping individuals maintain comfort, dignity, and independence in their daily lives. Their experienced nursing team focuses on personalized care, clear communication, and supporting families through every step of the process. It is healthcare built on trust, compassion, and real relationships. Learn more at mynursehealthcare.com. If you have a leak, a clogged drain, or even if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. With fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. They're locally owned and trusted and take pride in doing the job right the first time. Residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, they're the ones to call. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com. There are people in the community who remember being kids and riding in the back of the pickup with Derek Thomas, helping him judge the parade floats. It's just a memory you don't forget. Eventually, that celebrity era, it just wound down. It got kind of expensive, and at some point, they made the decision that it wasn't the best use of resources. But the event itself just kept growing. And then in 2006, they changed the name from Pride Week to Celebrate CB. And that name just kind of fits better, I think. It's exactly what it is. It's a celebration of the city and the people in it. So today, Celebrate CB is organized by the 712 Initiative, now part of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce, and there's a whole bunch of community partners. It runs for a full week this year, May 4th through the 10th. It kicks off on Monday with the mayor's proclamation. Mayor Shudak will come out and officially declare it Celebrate CB Week. I know that sounds like a formality, but there's something about that moment I think matters. It's the city saying, hey, this week is ours. We're going to take a minute and appreciate what we've got here. Then on Tuesday, you've got Clean Sweep. Clean Sweep's one of those events that I think really shows what this community is made of. Volunteers sign up, they get assigned sections of the city, and they just go out and clean it up, pick up trash, beautify the neighborhoods, give the city a good spring cleaning. Since they started doing that in 2012, they pulled more than 28,000 pounds of trash out of the community. 28,000 pounds. That's not nothing. That's people who care about where they live. And then you've got the farmers market. It'll take place Thursday evening out in Bayless Park, the Ag Committee Spring Cookout, and then Saturday morning pancakes in the park. Now, I mean, it's a great way to start a Saturday. The Pancake Man's going to be out there. Tickets are $5 for adults. Kids eat free with a paid adult. You've got coffee trucks. You've got activities for the kids. There's chalk art in front of City Hall. It's just going to be a really good morning. And then there is the parade. That starts at 10:30 on Saturday morning and winds through downtown. This year, the theme is CB on Track, which ties right into Railroad Days. We're going to get to that. But first, I want to mention that Kyle and I here with Local Stream Media, once again this year, are going to be bringing you the Celebrate CB Parade live online. Live. And if you can't watch it live, because hopefully you are at the parade, you can watch it later. We'll have it for you on YouTube. We'll have it for you on Meta. We'll be filling you in on all of that. So let's go back to Clean Sweep for just a second, because I think it's worth talking about. When you think about community pride, it's easy to think about the parade and the pancakes and all the fun stuff, and it's all great, but the Clean Sweep is where you really see it. You see people who are not getting paid, not getting any kind of recognition. They just show up because they want the city to look good. That is real. That's the kind of thing that doesn't make the highlight reel, but it's actually what holds a community together. And there's a special element to this, too. Teams form. You meet people you've never met before, and you end up laughing about the weird stuff you find out there. It's community building in the most literal sense of the word. Now, if you spent any time in Council Bluffs, you know that Bayless Park is kind of the center of everything. It's downtown. It's got the fountain, the performance space, the splash pad for the kids. And during Celebrate CB Week, that park is just alive. You're going to find the farmers market. You'll find the ag cookout, pancakes in the park. It's where people gather after the parade for the free kids activities and the food trucks and the music. It's been to a lot of those post-parade gatherings at Bayless Park over the years. There's just something about that scene. You've got the Canesville Symphony Orchestra. You've got kids running around. You got people from all different parts of the community just kind of hanging out. It's one of those things where you look around and you think, yeah, this is a pretty good place to live. So here is where it gets really interesting this year, because Railroad Days, which normally it's held in the fall, it's been moved to align with Celebrate CB Week. It's going to be May 9th and 10th, which is Saturday and Sunday. Now, it's been expanded to 2 full days this year, noon to 6 each day, and it lines up with National Train Day, which is May 10th. It also ties into America's 250th birthday celebration, which is happening this year. The theme of Celebrate CB being CB on Track is not a coincidence. This is all connected, and it should be, because when you talk about the history of Council Bluffs, you cannot separate this city from the railroad. You just can't. The railroad is the reason this city became what it is. Let's tell you a little bit about that history, because I think it's one of the most remarkable stories in American history, and it happened right here. So back in the 1850s, Council Bluffs was still known as Canesville, and it was already an important place. It was a major outfitting point for pioneers that were heading west on the Mormon Trail, the Oregon Trail, the California Trail. People came through here on their way to a new life somewhere out west. And in 1853, a surveyor and engineer named Grenville Dodge came through. He's looking for a terminus for the Rock Island Railroad, and he looked at Council Bluffs and he said, this is the place. And he ended up settling here with his family in 1855. He became one of the most prominent people in the community. Now, a few years later, in 1858 and in 1859, Dodge had a couple of meetings with this Illinois lawyer you may have heard of called Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln came to Council Bluffs to give a campaign speech. The two of them got to talking about the idea of a transcontinental railroad. Dodge took Lincoln up on a bluff overlooking the Missouri River Valley, pointed out the route, and Lincoln, who was a railroad attorney himself, never forgot that conversation. Now, fast forward a few years. Lincoln's president. The country in the middle of a civil war, and Congress passes the Pacific Railway Act of 1862, which authorizes the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. The act says that the eastern terminus, the starting point, will be chosen by the President of the United States. And Lincoln, remembering that conversation on the bluff, chose Council Bluffs. Now, there's a little bit of drama in there, too. Lincoln issued his first executive order designating Council Bluffs as Mile Zero in November of 1863. And Thomas Durant, the vice president of the Union Pacific, he basically pocketed it. He's still taking offers from other towns. Lincoln found out he's not happy, so he issued a second order, this time registering it with Congress. And on March 7th, 1864, it was official. Council Bluffs was Mile Zero on the nation's first transcontinental railroad. The museum curator at the Union Pacific Railroad Museum, he put it very well. He said it was a huge win for Council Bluffs. By 1916, the city had 7 railroads and 9 passenger depots. You could essentially come from anywhere and go anywhere. That's what this city was. That's what we were, a hub, a starting point, a place where things happened. So Railroad Days is built around that history, and it's set up so that you can actually experience it, not just read about it. You'll get on Ollie the Trolley running loops between all the participating venues from noon to 6 each day. You buy a ticket, $20 for a family group, and you can hop on and off all day long. The first stop, the Union Pacific Railroad Museum, which is housed in the old 1903 Carnegie Library building downtown. If you haven't been in there, you really need to go. It's a beautiful building. The exhibits inside are really something. They've got over 150 years of railroad history in there. Interactive stuff, artifacts, the whole deal. And this year, they're opening a brand new exhibit called Nation Before the Railroad. That is going to feature the actual Louisiana Purchase Proclamation from 1803, the actual document. That's pretty remarkable. They're also going to have park rangers from the Lewis and Clark Trail there, which also, I think it's a cool connection because Lewis and Clark came right through this area long before the railroad ever did. Then there are the historic General Dodge House. If you want to understand the railroad, you need to understand Grenville Dodge. This is the man who built it. He was the chief engineer of the Union Pacific. He was also a Civil War general, a U.S. congressman, a businessman. He built that house in 1869, the same year the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. And touring it, you get a real sense of the era. Period furnishings, artifacts, stories from his life. It's one of those places where history just kind of feels close. And then the Rails West History Museum, which is out on the old 1899 Rock Island Depot on South Main. That building itself is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's the last remaining passenger depot in Council Bluffs. Inside, you've got the history of the Rock Island Line, train passenger travel, all of that. But the thing that I think people really love is getting outside into the rail yard and actually climbing up on the vintage locomotives and walking through the old train cars. There's something about standing next to one of those old engines that just puts things in perspective. These things were massive. The engineering that went into them was extraordinary. And then you've got the Hoff Family Arts and Culture Center, which Pace runs. They've got all kinds of train-themed activities over there, miniature train exhibits, math puzzles, panning for gold, bandana decorating, a scavenger hunt. Great for the kids, but honestly, yeah, it's fun for us adults too. And then here is the thing that I keep coming back to. The fact that Celebrate CB and Railroad Days are happening at the same time this year, and that the theme is CB on Track. It's not just a clever marketing move. It actually means something. Celebrate CB is about the people who are here right now. It's about the community we are today. The volunteers, the businesses, the schools, the families. And Railroad Days, that's about the people who built the foundation that we're all standing on. The pioneers, the engineers, the workers who laid those tracks across the country starting right here in our city. You put those two things together and you get the full picture of what Council Bluffs is, where we came from and where we're going. I think that's a really powerful thing. When a kid stands on the sidewalk and watches the parade go by on Saturday morning, they're seeing their community at its best. And then when that same kid hops on the trolley in the afternoon, climbs up on a steam engine at Rails West, they're connecting with something bigger than themselves. They're connecting with history, with a story that started right here and changed the entire country. I think that matters. It matters a lot. I also want to talk a minute about the organizations that are helping make all of this happen. I don't think they get enough credit sometimes. 712 Initiative, now blended together with the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce. They've been a huge part of the revitalization of this city. They do housing transformation, neighborhood development. They activate public spaces. That First Avenue Trail, a great example of what they've been able to do. That trail runs along a former railroad corridor, by the way. And even the trail has a railroad connection. During Celebrate CB, it is a focal point. They're going to do scavenger hunts on it using the AutoCast app funded by the Iowa West Foundation. They do murals and music events out there. It's become one of the most vibrant community spaces in the city. Railroad Days itself has a great group of partners behind it. Union Pacific Railroad is a presenting sponsor. The Iowa West Foundation providing grant funding. You've got the Chamber of Commerce, PACE, the Historical Society of Pottawatomie County, the Public Library, the Dodge House, all of these organizations coming together to make something happen for this community. That is Council Bluffs. That's how we do things here. I've been around long enough to have a lot of conversations with people about what this city means to them. What I hear over and over again, whether it's from someone who has lived here their whole life or someone who just moved here a couple of years ago, is that there's something about this community that you do not find everywhere. There's people who come to the parade every single year, and they've been coming since they were kids. They bring their own kids now. They sit on the same curb in the same spot, and they watch the same high school bands go by. It's not the same band, obviously. That's a different group of kids every year. But it's the same tradition. And that continuity, that sense of this is what we do, this is who we are, that's what community pride actually looks like. And then there are the people who are newer to Council Bluffs, who found their way into the community through events like this. The clean sweep, the farmers market, the parade, those are just the on-ramps. Those are the places where you go from being someone who lives here to someone who is from here. That's a real thing. And then there's the business owners, the people on the historic 100 block who see the foot traffic during railroad days and know that this is a weekend that's going to matter for their bottom line. The restaurants running specials, the hotels are going to be filling up all across town. This isn't just a feel-good event. It has real economic impact for the people who are building their lives and their businesses here. Service Master Restore by Schmader knows it can be hard to get things back to normal when you've suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke, and that can oftentimes lead to mold, and you may be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. It's easy. You give Cindy Schmader a call with Service Master Restore by Schmader. Her phone number, 402-339-9911. Morning Coffee is brought to you by Keith Jones, your Edward Jones financial advisor in Council Bluffs. Learn how he can help you reach your financial goals. Visit edwardjones.com for more. Edward Jones, member SIPC. I want to take just a second and talk about what it means to be mile zero, because I think sometimes we take that for granted living here. I really do. We drive past the Union Pacific Museum. We don't even think about it. We know the railroad is part of our history, but we don't always stop and really let that sink in. In the 1860s, building a transcontinental railroad was the biggest thing anyone had ever tried to do in this country. It was the moon landing of its era. Started right here in Council Bluffs. Abraham Lincoln looked at this city and he said, this is where it begins. The workers who built that railroad, a lot of them immigrants, a lot of them Civil War veterans, they faced things that are hard to even imagine. The terrain, the weather, the sheer physical labor of it, and they did it. They connected the country. It started right here. That's not a small thing. That's not something to just put on a plaque and forget about it. That is something to be genuinely proud of. Railroad days, that's our way of saying we remember. We know where we came from, and we're going to make sure the next generation knows it too. So here's what I want to leave you with. Celebrate CB and Railroad Days are not things you watch from the sideline. They are things you take part in. I really mean that. If you've never done the clean sweep, do it this year. Sign up, grab a pair of gloves, go out with your neighbors, and make your part of the city a little bit better. It's a couple of hours, but it is so worth it. Then come to Pancakes in the Park Saturday morning. Bring the family. It's just $5 for adults. Kids eat for free. You're going to have a good time, I promise. Then watch the parade. If you can't be at the parade, watch it live online on local stream media. And if you are at the parade, watch the stream later. If you have a business or an organization, think about getting a float together for this year, because being in the parade is a different experience than watching it. Trust me on that. I have done it. And then in the afternoon, get on the trolley and go see the museums. Even if you've been there before, even if you think you know the history, go again, because there's always something new. There's always something that hits differently depending on where you are in life when you see it. This is our city. This is our history. And this week is our chance to celebrate all of it together. So celebrate CB Week, May 4th through the 10th. Railroad Days, May 9th and the 10th, noon to 6 each day. The theme, CB on Track. I think this year is going to be something special. The combination of these two events, the history, the community, all of it coming together at the same time. It just feels right. If you want more information, go to unleashcb.com. They've got the full schedule. The Railroad Days ticket information, all of it. Tickets for Railroad Days are $20 for a family, a group, which covers 2 adults and all the kids under 18. You can buy them online or pick them up at the Union Pacific Museum or at the Dodge House on the day of the event. Get out there. Be part of it. Show your Council Bluffs pride, because this city has earned it. We have a history that most cities would give anything to have. We've got a community that knows how to celebrate it. I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. This is Council Bluffs Today. I'm Todd Studer. We'll see you next time.